When you start allowing people that are not qualified or don't have the time on their tools to do electrical work at your house, there's definitely some serious risk involved in that.
We're talking about fires potentially, right? I mean, you got to do it right.
I'd say leave the electrical work to the electricians and leave the curtain rod and then the TV hanging and all that stuff to the handyman for the safety of your home, for sure. If there's flickering lights, there's something you should look into. You shouldn't have that happen at your house very frequently. It's always recommended to get all the components of your electricity just checked out. If your house is 10 years old or older, highly recommend just having to take a look at it, check it out, and then if you experience any of those things I just mentioned, definitely get it looked at sooner than later.
Welcome to today's Heart of the Hustle. I am here with Joe from Glow Joe Electric. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sherry. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be on Heart of the Hustle. I've seen a lot of your reels, and it's a fun show to watch and be a part of.
Oh, thank you. So tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm a Master Electrician. I'm from Slidell, Louisiana, and been here since 2017, and just decided I didn't want to be an employee anymore. So I just started a premier electrical service provider, doing generators, electrical service calls in general. If your home's got a problem, I can fix it. And just excited to serve the homeowner at the highest level, and that's kind of what I take pride in.
So how did you decide to do this, right? Like, was this always sort of what you wanted to do when you were a kid, or did you have other careers?
Well, so I've done a lot of things in my life, but I started doing this with a friend of mine who his dad was a foreman, and he wanted me to do some side work with him, and I was like, yeah, let's go. And so we did some side work. We were wiring up a triplex, and I enjoyed the thrill of the chase and trying to figure out, okay, we got to get this wire from here to here. How are we going to do it? Which way are we going to go? What's the shortest route? Voltage drop, all the crazy stuff that comes with it. Math has always been a strong suit of mine, and I kind of fell in love with it. And then I started my job at the company that his dad was working for, and next thing you know, I was going to school and an apprenticeship program, getting paid to learn. And, that's kind of how it all started. Went to school for 3 years there. And here I am today as a master electrician.
What's the difference between being a master electrician and being, is that like, are there different levels and like master's the highest, or what does that look like? Or does that sort of mean the same thing as like a certified electrician?
So you start as an apprentice.
Okay.
You work for 4 years as an apprentice. You get 8,000 hours on the job, working underneath a journeyman and a master electrician. Then you can take the test to be a journeyman electrician, it's not required to go to school. You can have 8,000 hours on the job as an apprentice to take a journeyman's license. You take the journeyman's test, you pass, then you work underneath the master electrician for 2 more years, another 4,000 hours, and then you have qualified to take the master electrician's test, and then you can become an electrical contractor legitimately without paying another master electrician to oversee your business and take liability.
Wow. And is that the same across all states?
No, there's some states that have much more lenient requirements, but from Louisiana to Texas, they share the requirements. Some they have different, names that I think in Canada, it's like a red listed or something like that. But there's definitely different requirements in different states. Some are more lenient than others, but I think regardless, there's at least 12,000 hours that you have to go through to become a master electrician, and them give you the seal of approval that you deserve to own an electrical contractor business and take part in the heart of everyone's electrical systems.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that you had that many hours of training.
It's a lot.
It's cool. It's good though, right? You want to know, because electric, we're talking about fires potentially, right? I mean, you got to do it right.
Yeah, and I see handyman running around here, and no shade against handyman. I used one at my house yesterday, actually, just because there's so much going on with the electrical business. I'm capable of doing the work, but when you start allowing people that are not qualified or don't have the time on their tools working on electrical systems strictly to do electrical work at your house, there's definitely some serious risk involved in that. That's not what they do every day, and they're not seasoned in it. So I'd say leave the electrical work to the electricians and leave the curtain rod and then the TV hanging and all that stuff to the handyman for the safety of your home, for sure.
So what are the types of things that you're usually working on?
So for me, it can go anywhere from a trip breaker to hanging up a ceiling fan to, there's an outlet that's not working to, I saw a spark come out of this outlet. One of my favorite things is portable generator installs. That is something that obviously this time of year in Texas, it's a necessity that if you want to continue using your life during the storm, you need power. And so portable generator is a super viable option that I'm really niching down into. It's just a more affordable option and just as reliable as these big Generacs and Kohlers that are $20,000 to get installed. For a portable, you can get in under $6,000 and have the whole setup. With a little more work, you have to flip a few more switches, but it's still a very viable option, and Duramax is the way to go, in my opinion, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, from start to finish, it's a little bit of everything.
Excellent. So, yeah, I know we are at the recording of this. We are in January of 2026. And we're about to have a huge cold front. And as people do in Texas, everyone's freaking out about it. The shelves are empty with bread, even though it's going to be like 2 days. But everyone's really, really concerned about, losing their power. And so what are the things, like, tell us what it means to have a generator. How do you set that, how does that set up? Is that something that you need to have professionally installed? What can it run in the home? Tell us a little bit more about that for people who are have no idea what a generator does.
So a generator you start the generator and it produces electricity. And if you hook it up correctly, it will backfeed electricity into your electric panel and feed all of your appliances in your house. Depending on the size of your HVAC or your heat, it may or may not be capable of doing that. But it will absolutely power up the majority of your home. EV chargers are a little iffy as far as that's concerned. If you wanted a generator, it may only power your EV charger while you charge your car, but it definitely should be professionally installed. You need an interlock kit on your generator to prevent that backfeed that I just talked about from going back into the utility line that the lineman may be working on and possibly injuring or killing them. So the interlock prevents power from going back into the grid to possibly injure a lineman on the job. So you can hook a generator up to your house without the interlock, but if you're not qualified and you don't know that if that main breaker's still on, you're feeding power back into the power lines, which is super dangerous. And so that is where the professional installation comes in, key to have it done where there is no way to have your generator on, feeding your house, but also feeding back into the utility power. So that's kind of how it all kind of ties in together. But the Duramax will power just about anything in your house, HVAC included for most newer units. Some of the older ones take a little more power, but anything after like 2015, it'll run your HVAC and tons of stuff in your house, if not all of it.
Wow. And it runs off of gas?
So there's multiple units. There's some that are tri-fuel, which will have natural gas, propane, or gasoline, depending on if you have natural gas at your house. If you don't have natural gas at your house, then you can strictly use propane or gasoline. I always prefer the natural gas or propane for the generators for the longevity of the motors. Gasoline just burns really dirty and requires a lot more maintenance than propane or natural gas. For me personally, if I'm going to run my generator, if I have the option, I'm going propane all day long.
And it always makes me nervous to have gas cans filled with gas sitting around.
Yeah, it's sketchy. You see all these videos on all the socials of, my wife saw one the other day of a propane tank that blew up in someone's house and literally their house was just disseminated. And, there's this freak accidents everywhere. You got to live your life and think about all the possibilities. And one of them being a propane explosion or gas explosion. And so keep those things in safe places for sure.
Yeah. We had a really severe storm when my son, I guess it was 2011. We had a really severe storm in Jersey and we lost our power for 2 weeks. And after that, man, we got a generator and it was great because we didn't have to have the stress that a lot of people I think are feeling right now. Like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Where am I going to go? And the roads are going to be icy. And at least it was in Jersey and we were able to get out and we went and stayed with a friend for a few weeks. But, we don't think about that very much. But I think a generator is such a good thing to have.
It's a necessity. In Jersey, I'm sure it's a necessity. And here, it's a necessity a few times a year. But when you need it, you need it. And you're so happy you made the investment to have it. It's not a cheap investment, but it's well worth it. When the time comes for you to go flip a couple switches, press the button, start the generator, and everything comes back on. And your friends and family are coming over to your house because you have everything. And they're like, don't have anything. You've got internet as long as, the internet providers are still up and running. And obviously all your food in your freezer is good. You can run your grill. You could do almost anything you want with the generator. And it's a viable piece of equipment for the few times a year that you need it. You'll be glad you invested in it.
During Hurricane Sandy, I was also in New Jersey, and we couldn't drive anywhere because there were just trees everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so where everyone just starts kind of walking around the neighborhood, and we all were like listening for that one person, right,
Yeah.
that had a generator. And so somehow everyone in the neighborhood ended up at this one person's house. Nobody knew them. None of us really knew each other. We all, just because we heard the generator, we all went to their house. So everyone was like taking turns, bringing over bottles of wine, taking turns, charging their phones.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a campfire setting around the generator. It's warm. It's putting out power. Got 3 extension cords with surge protectors, so everyone can plug all their stuff in. And yeah, it's you are the star of the show when you have a generator and the power goes out.
Yep.
Whether you want to be or not, they're gonna make their way to your house. If you don't know them, they're gonna come introduce themselves.
So we're talking about cold weather, which here in Texas, you don't think about Texas as somewhere where things get real cold, but it does. What are some of the other things that happen to your electrical system during the cold that we should be aware of?
So copper contracts when it gets cold. Aluminum contracts even more. If you still have aluminum wire, side note, you should get that removed.
How do you know?
You don't know.
Okay.
You don't know.
Great,
unless, if you pull out your outlets and take a look at them and it's not copper and it's silver colored, then you have aluminum. Most people don't have aluminum anymore, but there are select few houses that still do. That is the more volatile of the two as far as contraction goes. But contraction happens to metals in general when temperature changes. And as it gets cold, the copper contracts and makes loose connections in your outlets on most of the time your exterior walls. And if you had a loose connection before the cold weather, it was just a little loose, it's going to get more loose and it's going to become more problematic and more evident as it gets colder. And so lights will start to flicker. If there's flickering lights, there's something you should look into. You shouldn't have that happen at your house very frequently. And then obviously the space heaters. That's a common thing where people want to use extension cords with space heaters. It's not recommended. Do not use your extension cord strictly from the cord from the electrical heater into the outlet. Extension cords are not designed for the power that electric heater draws. And so if you do decide to use an extension cord, try to get one that's like 10 gauge, that's short as possible from the distance from the outlet to where you want the heater to go. But it's definitely not recommended to use a space heater with extension cord.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because I have in my my laundry room has an exterior wall. All the pipes are on the exterior wall. And we've had issues with those freezing in the past.
Right.
And so we put a space heater in that room just to keep it warm enough so that those outside pipes don't get too cold. But there's an outlet in there. So we do run an extension cord. So
there's
thank
this
you
cool
for that.
thing. One of my clients that was recommended to me, they have these 15-foot long heating elements that you hook directly into power, and they have a thermostat on them. And so once it gets below a certain temperature, the heating element will turn on and you wrap it around your pipes like the ones you have on the exterior wall, and they'll be protected from busting. And so, yes, you need electricity to run it, but the investment in that is much less time consuming than, my pipe's busted. Now I don't have water. Now I got to call a plumber. Now I got to get an emergency repair.
Right.
Instead, do the preventiveness measure of getting those pipes wrapped with one of those heating elements and they've done it. They've had it for the past 2 years with no issues. And before it had busted like 3 times on them.
Wow.
On Master Electrician. So it's a very viable solution for preventive pipe bursting for sure.
One of the other things that happens during the cold is the little critters don't want to be cold outside, and so they start to come inside or find warm places. So tell us about that, because I know, I think I was telling you the other day, my car wiring got eaten. I guess it was 2 years ago. We had a lot of cold weather as well, and some rat or something made a home in my car because I wasn't driving because it was cold for a few days, and they ate all of my electric. So does that happen inside your house?
It does. They love the coating of insulation. I had a conversation with a biochemist of some sort, and they knew. I didn't know until they told me, but it's the coating of your Romex in your house, which is the type of wire you use in residential, that they love to chew on. And once they get down through the coating, then obviously you have copper exposed, and once those two conductors start to touch, you have tripping breakers, and They love chewing on it. So if it's exposed, they're going to get to it. I actually just found some in my house yesterday doing some remodel work. Underneath the bathtub in the kids' bathroom, there's, I have a pier and beam home, so the plumbing comes from down low, and there's a nice size hole under there, bigger than it needed to be for the plumbing. And there was just a big old, you can tell that rats had just made a home inside the bottom of the tub because, there's no, the temperature there is much more warmer than it is outside. And there was plenty of rat feces and, shirts that they had drug up in there and, all that. And so, yeah, wherever they can find a home that's warmer than outside, they're going to do it, and they'll chew on your wires on the way.
And so what happens when that happens? Is it a fire hazard? Is it something where your breakers trip? Like, how do you know?
It's all the above. You could have a wire that's been chewed on and it not be a problem for 10 years because it's not touching anything. There's no way for the hot conductor and the ground conductor to touch each other, and it's not in a place of high traffic or anything like that, so it won't be a problem. But most people, it's either squirrels or rats that have chewed through the wires, and they start to notice lights flickering. Their outlet intermittently works from time to time. And then at some point, you're either going to have a breaker trip, your outlet's going to stop working, or you're going to have that big F word, which I hope no one ever has to experience. So it's always recommended to get all the components of your electricity just checked out. I mean, if your house is 10 years old or older, highly recommend just having to take a look at it. Check it out. And then if you experience any of those things I just mentioned, definitely get it looked at sooner than later.
I keep thinking about the rats underneath your bathtub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not sure that image is ever going to leave me. So thank you for that.
Yeah. They're down there playing a symphony while my baby's in the bathtub, I guess, just, oh, I love the warm water. It's even warmer than it was, It's just like, get out of here.
So we talked about the impact of cold on the electricity in your house. What about the impact of heat? Obviously, we're in Texas. It gets super hot here as well during the summer. Are there some impacts to the electrical system from the heat during the summertime?
Yeah, so anything electrical causes heat on its own, whether it's hot outside or cold outside. But when there's extra heat from the temperatures outside, it becomes more demanding on the system. And breakers are designed to detect temperature. And when they overheat, then they're designed to trip for safety. And so I've run across many, many homeowners that in the summertime, they have tons of problems with breakers tripping, and that's from the heat. And so copper does the same thing. It expands in the heat instead of contracts, and does a very similar thing as it does in the cold weather, and just makes those loose connections looser. And, it can be definitely problematic in the long term. And so getting a redevice in your home, all your outlets and your switches replaced every 15 years is ideal. I mean, they say devices last up to 20 years, but, the connection only lasts so long. When it's expanding and contracting so many times, it's going to become loose. It's inevitable.
That's probably more true on the outlets on the external walls.
Correct. Yeah. Exterior walls are definitely more susceptible to these problems than the ones that are more climate controlled on the interior walls.
So every 15 years?
Ideally.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. I might have to have you come to my house.
Let's do it.
So you work primarily in like Collin County, Denton County, which is here in like the North Dallas area, right? Do you live in Little Elm?
I live in Little Elm, Oak Point specifically. No, a lot of people don't know where that is, but it's just a little ways away from Little Elm, just a mile or two, a couple minutes from Aubrey. So we're kind of right in the middle of El Dorado and 380, kind of back there in a nice little neighborhood. Super kosher little neighborhood, very quaint, awesome people. And we've been on this side of town since June of last year, and then we moved from Garland. I don't typically do work in Garland anymore. It's just a long commute. Yeah. People don't really want to pay my rates to go out there, and so I'm trying to stay on the north side and Collin and Denton County as much as I can, for sure.
What made you move up to the Little Elm area?
It wasn't the area until I got here that we loved the area, but it was the house and the property. We found an acre and we found a house that was just, my wife is not into the cookie cutter style houses. She did not want a new house. So we got us a 1962 house that's, almost 100 years old. It was built 20 or 40 years older than before it was actually put on the property. It was built somewhere else and transported to its current state. And so, I've got a lot of work to do at the house. There's always something that needs to be done. She is a creator. she's artsy. She's a photographer. And so all her grandiose ideas turn to me for execution. And so there's things that need to be done and things that we want to do. But ultimately, we love the area after moving here. It was a really great place to be, and the community couldn't have been a better choice.
And anybody who knows anything about North Dallas, it's hard to find land, right? And if you do, it usually is that trade-off. You're buying like an older home on a piece of land, because any of the newer homes are right next to each other, 0 lot lines, no land, right? So I love that. I would be exactly the same as your wife. I like the older houses. I don't want anything cookie cutter. I want something unique.
It's unique. There's plenty of character and plenty of stuff to repair and fix along the way. But, you know, it's closer to a blank canvas, right? I mean, when a house is that old, it doesn't hurt as much to say, hey, we need to redo this, because it wasn't just built 2 years ago. Yeah. And it's pier and beam. And so I can do electrical, obviously, and a lot of other things. And so there's a lot of room for improvements and relocation of the oven and the refrigerator and the bathroom and, expansion and contraction. And so, yeah, it's an exciting little canvas to just make our own. And who knows how long we'll be there, but I think we plan on being there for 5 or 7 years, and, we'll see where God brings us from there.
And you guys have kids?
We do. We have I'll have a 2-year-old in February, and then I've got a 3-month-old. So we've got 2 under 2. It's a tall task every day. I go 9 to 5 to work, and then the 5 to 9 when I get home, and I'm required to fulfill all those roles, and I appreciate it. I enjoy it. I drink a lot of coffee. But hey, it gets me through. It could be worse. I could be drinking energy drinks all day and whatnot. So I'm not that guy. But 2 under 2 is an amazing, beautiful gift. And they'll be very close together as they grow up. And then I think they'll be. I mean, they already. The older one plays very well with the little one, as long as he's not like trying to throw him out of his bouncer or whatever. He's pretty rough. But they'll have 2 people to be rough with their entire life, and so it's going to be fun along the way. And so we went for 2 now because we're not getting any younger, and so it was now or never. And God bless us with the second one quickly, and so here we are. We're battling through the 2 under 2 stages, and we'll get done quicker.
As somebody with a high schooler, it goes by fast.
That's
I remember everyone telling me that, but it really does. It really does go by fast. So
yeah. I didn't appreciate that statement until I experienced it firsthand. Like I heard it, and I knew for myself that high school went by fast, and it seemed like it was going by slow. And, but when you're watching someone else grow up and their developments start to happen so quickly, and you're just like, hey, buddy, slow down. Like, you don't have to grow up so quickly. Yeah. Like I want to experience this with you for a little while longer before you really start saying those words well, and, closing the doors behind you and opening the car door and climbing in by yourself. And, it's all great accomplishments, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you slow down, but they won't.
There is something to be said, though, when they can start feeding themselves and like bathing themselves, the whole world changes.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's like when they sleep, that's one big change. And then when they can like feed, bathe, go to the bathroom on their own, life completely changes. It's nice.
Yeah. People call us crazy, but we started potty training our first one at 5 months old. And he was doing well. He's still doing decent, but he was doing great until the second baby came along, and it got kind of thrown to the side. But he does very well, and we're going to do the same thing with the second one, and we're going to try to get him out of diapers by like 2.5, and just be done with that whole project.
Yeah.
And move on to the next accomplishment, whatever that might be.
So what brought you here from Louisiana?
Well, I was being a real knucklehead back home. I was born here in Dallas and then moved to Louisiana when I was 3, lived there for 27 years and just made all the wrong choices there. I went from, an all-star athlete to getting kicked off the team for, chasing women and doing drugs. And
what sport?
I played football and baseball. I think had I not chose that route, I would still be playing baseball probably. But, I made the wrong choice in the road, and I'm paying for it today. But, it made me who I am today. I couldn't change it. The diversity of the culture there, and then, coming here and all the things that it took to really make a decision to start over here in Texas, it made me stronger and, drug addiction no longer has a hold on me anymore. I gave it to God because he nudged me that day when I was using it with my friends and said, hey, you need to go to Dallas where things are better. And they were. And I made the decision, loaded up my little 1995 Acura Integra with everything that I deemed necessary and drove across state lines and started over.
That's me. I just left it all behind.
Left it all behind. I left my mom and dad. My sister had already moved, but yeah, I made a decision about 2 weeks prior that I was done doing what I was doing. I was tired of chasing my tail, and yeah, loaded up the car with my last little fun items and then everything I needed, and took about 12 hours to drive here along the way. Made a couple of pit stops and never looked back. I've been back a couple times, and it's a dismal place for me.
Yeah.
You know, I made a lot of bad decisions, and when it's about as far as you can go with drug use that you can come out of. And I'm just blessed because I hear friends dying every day from doing what I was doing. And I got out before that happened. So glory to God for that.
Were you able to get sober on your own?
Yeah.
Wow.
I moved in with my uncle, and I lived with him and worked with him. He was gracious enough to allow me to move in with him with a kid that was 3 and 4. And then he had a 13-year-old at the time. So he had 3 kids. I slept on his couch. There was some accountability there. I went to the regeneration program at Watermark Church for a year. And that was pivotal, and really doing the inventory and figuring out what made me want to leave my everyday life to go get high, whatever that might look like. But going through that program, it took a serious amount of devotion, a willingness to open up and become vulnerable and make those amends with people, and make that list of all the people that I did harm to along the way, and apologize when needed. And if not, just kind of speak it to people that were my sponsors and people that could hold me accountable to take the next steps of, becoming clean from that feeling that, I went through in life. And plug for Watermark and their Regen program. It is a really, really good program, and it will, if you want to, it will get you well along the way.
That's the biggest thing is just willingness. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I went through a similar program, 12-step based program. Mm-hmm. And it's all about willingness, because you see people come in and you see people leave all the time. And usually the issue is they're just not willing. They're not willing to do the work that's required, right? You can't just just stop, mm-hmm. because there's a reason why you wanted to escape from your life every day. And we're generally just maladapted to life, right? Anyone who's had some sort of addiction, we're maladapted to life. And then so we try to escape, and then our brain chemistry changes, and then we're really screwed, right?
And we got to work even harder to get it back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen. So my uncle's son is actually going through the same thing, and he's 18, and that's a fork in the road for anybody at that age who doesn't have a strong foundation in life, doesn't know where they want to go. They're very unsure about what the future looks like, and one of the easiest ways to get away from it in their mind is to go use and just forget about it for today, and get inebriated in one way or another, and tomorrow will be another day, and before you know it, you're stuck in that pattern, and you're set back 5 or 7 years at best to really find your path in life. And so I've been trying to breathe life into him and give him some guidance as to, some options for him to get into a better way of life, and breathe life into him and let him know that, hey, you are worthy of so much more than you're giving yourself credit for. Yeah. And that's another thing that, a lot of us go through in the addiction world, is feeling unworthy of the best that we could possibly do, and minimizing our effort to achieve that.
Well, we've usually done, as you said, knuckleheaded things in our lives. And there's a lot of shame that comes with coming out of addiction. You were saying it's hard for you to go back to Louisiana. I still don't really like going to Austin. Yeah. Because that's where all the end of the real knuckleheadedness happened. Yeah. And, I still have a hard time. I don't want to go back, right? Even Jersey a little bit. Mm-hmm. But a lot of shame comes with it. And if you're willing to, again, back to willingness, to go through it, do the work, make the amends, But it's always there. It never really goes. It never goes away.
No.
And I'm grateful that it doesn't go away, because it reminds me that I'm only one drink away,
Absolutely,
from getting right back there and from losing everything that I've gained.
Yeah, it happens quick.
It happens quick, and I see it all the time in recovery.
Yeah,
we see people come in and they've got 15 years sober, and they're like, I just thought I had it. Thought I was good.
Thought I had a beat. Never.
Or I thought, oh, well, it's something that happened in my 20s. Like, I'm okay now. And even if I think that might be the case, I still don't want to try it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. I know I'm allergic to gluten.
That helps you slow down a little.
I will bloat up like I'm 8 months pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So do I want to try it again?
I wouldn't recommend.
And have the ramifications, right? And I think, but it's so hard. It's so hard when it's a drug or alcohol that allows us to escape a little bit, because life's not easy. And so I think it's so different than something that's like a food allergy. I joke about it, but it's because life's hard, and we don't have a lot of coping tools, right? Our new coping tool is scrolling.
Scrolling, yep. And that'll make you disappear too, just in a different way.
Yeah.
Or somebody goes to the doctor for a surgery, that has been previously addicted to narcotics, and then their doctor gives them a prescription, and they take that prescription as prescribed, and it reignites that addiction, and then you're back in the streets chasing that thing you were chasing 10 years ago that you thought you had a beat, and you just don't. It's not possible to just one day wake up and say, I'll never be addicted again, because it's not that, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We got to fight it every day, and giving back to the people that are still fighting it, I think contributes to the success of us on a daily basis, is making sure that we remember where we came from and help the people that are still there.
Yep. 100%. Thank you for sharing that. I know we talked, it kind of came up in our initial prep call for today, and it's hard to talk about it for a lot of people. I did a whole TEDx about it, and that was sort of the first time that I came out talking about it, but it's very vulnerable, and I think it's hard to talk about. But going back to this idea of the more we can help other people, the healthier we can be. And so I always see it as, I'd rather be a little embarrassed and have a little bit of a vulnerability hangover, talking about things like this, but maybe we can help one other person, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one other person can be like, oh my gosh, like, she's wearing a suit, or he has a big business, he has a really successful business, and they went through this too. And if they can do it, so can I. And so I think it's really cool that you're willing to talk about it.
That's the goal, is just sharing it and breathing life into the younger generation. I mean, it's possible for you to get away from what you're going through and what you feel like you're trapped in. You're one decision away from a different lifestyle and all the success that you could ever want.
So tell us how we can find you if we need some sort of electrical help. Lights are flashing, need a generator, or just want to get that 15-year checkup. Where can people find you?
So I've got a website, glowjoelectric.com. You can inquire on there. And Jennifer, who's my office assistant, amazing office assistant, she's the manager and keeps me in line. She'll reach out and get you on the schedule. I've got a Facebook page, Glow Joe Electric. My email is joe@gjetx.com. You can send me an email there, and we can set up a consultation and just have a conversation. I will come out for free in most situations. If you've got something that's imminent that I call a demand call, where there's a problem, obviously that's not free for me to come out. But if you're just looking to do some new stuff to your house, some upgrades, remodel, whatever it is, I'd love to just come out and chat with you for free, and we'll walk the project and kind of see what we got. And I'll design some options for you, from the bare essentials, we'll put a Band-Aid on it, all the way up to the highest investment in the longevity that will last. I'll put a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee on anything in that realm of my work. And so, we can do it from the bare minimum all the way up to the highest investment, just kind of where your budget's at.
That's awesome. And I love your branding. So where did Glow Joe Electric come from?
Well, it's a nice story. It's a sweet but sad story. So when we lived in Garland, I had a neighbor of mine who always had little knick-knack stuff for me to do at her house. And she was an amazing lady, Angie. Her name is Angela, and my wife's name is Angela, so there was kind of that connection there. But she started calling me Glow Joe, and I was like, you know what? And I hadn't started my business yet at that point. I was kind of in the process of it, and I didn't have an LLC yet. And I was like, that's catchy. I saw Mosquito Joe, and there's a couple other Joe type businesses, and I looked online, and no one was using it, and I was like, that's catchy. I know it's got my name in it, and some people, kind of frown upon that, but I think Glojo, it just clicks. And so she gave me that name, and I made the LLC. I got some magnets for my truck because that's kind of how business started. Started with magnets. And as I was going through the process of starting my branding, she was diagnosed with ALS, and it took her so fast. She was diagnosed and passed within like 14 months. Like, it was just so quick. And she was one of the most beautiful people ever in our lives, and just would give you the shirt off her back any day of the week. She was just that kind of lady. And so it pays homage to her to brand my business. And shortly after her funeral, maybe a week before her funeral, I got my van wrapped with the full wrap. And so the story was told at her funeral of how she named my business, and they got to see pictures of, where I was and where I am now. And it's just a beautiful story. And it gives me goosebumps to think about it because, she left a legacy for me to, to brand my company with. And it's sticking, and people are remembering me, and, it's easy to remember. And that's kind of how it all came together. I'm still good friends with her husband, who, calls me Glojo and sends me referrals, and super, super great guy. He's in the AI world, but yeah, that's kind of how it all came together. It was, all organic, and I just took it and run with it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And you're so good as a marketing mentor. I always tell people to always be branded, right? So you've always got, big logo on your shirt. You usually have a baseball hat. We had to take it off because we wouldn't be able to see your eyes with the lighting in here. But I love how you're always branded. So good job as your marketing mentor.
All right. I'm trying to figure this thing out. This is a complex situation, this whole marketing deal, and the SEO, and the, you got to post multiple times a week. And I got 2 kids under 2. I'm trying to make sure everybody else's house is in good working order. I'll tell you what, my house is probably the least safe house as far as electrical is concerned. I don't even have a generator inlet on my house. Right now, for this storm, I got to go run home and put one on my house because I've been working on all of y'all's houses for, the last 2 years. So I'm going to put one on my house, and we'll make sure that I have power so that I can't go down the street to the lady's generator that I just installed the other day and say, hey, can I use your house? Because mine doesn't have a generator. And so, yeah, that's exciting stuff to put my brand on everywhere I go. I'm going to get some magnets to start putting on people's panels when I leave their house so they have it. And yeah, just working on the SEO side of things is obviously it's your bread and butter, but for me, it's all Chinese, and it's all changing every day, right?
Yes, constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and SEO in particular, its own niche. It's almost like being an electrician, right? It's not, there is overall marketing, right? Like there's the overall house, and then there's knowing exactly what's going on with the electrical system.
Sure.
SEO is very much that. And so most everyone I talk to, I recommend that they work with someone that knows what's going on because it moves so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They stay hip to all the improvements
Yeah.
and what they're looking for this year and this month and this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
I loved having you here.
I enjoyed it.
And thanks to the Little Chamber for introducing us.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to the Little Elm Chamber.
We love you guys.
They have a great package. If you haven't looked in the Little Elm Chamber, their package is just, the benefits way outweigh the cost. And so if you're wondering where to start with some networking opportunities, definitely check into the Little Elm Chamber. It's a great group of people, and the opportunities there are endless.
Yeah, and if you're at a certain level of membership, I forget what it's called, but which is how you ended up on this show. You can actually be on the show here with me as part of your membership. And you get headshots by the amazing Paula Ward. You get mailers. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of value that they give. I've looked at all the other chambers in the area just as being a member myself, and no one does it like the Little Elm Chamber. So thank you guys for all you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to many more years of the chamber.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.